everybody at home. Welcome to Our Voices, Our Town. This is a new series that the Raue is going to be doing over the year. I think there was going to be like a dozen interviews that we're going to do. This is to take place because we can't have people in this beautiful theater. And they asked me to do the first one here. I'm John DeCause, the curator of Lucy's Cafe, which basically means I'm the one who books the comics into the show. And we're going to start it off with a comedian that I've known for a long time. And it's always interesting to me. People ask me, you know, who are the best comics in Chicago? And I can give you the list. But this gentleman, probably not only the best in Chicago, but one of the best I've ever seen in this country. And he's going to be embarrassed about that, but it's the truth. You know, he's one of those comics, and he's been on this stage, the main stage. He's done Lucy's as well. You know, he's one of those comics where other comics, including myself, watch him and go, why am I doing this? Why do I continue to try to do stand-up comedy? That's how good he is. The list of credits, HBO, Showtime, Comedy Central, one of the finalists for Last Comic Standing. I think he's got a set at the Dry Bar. I think we're talking 7-8 million people have watched this. This is how good he is. And I'm not kidding when I say this, but if we had a baseball fantasy draft and it was of comics, I think that my guest here would be the first one I chose, Mr. Kevin Bozeman. Kevin,
thank you, man.
Thanks for doing this.
I appreciate it. You know, the beauty of Chicago comedy is there's so many great, diverse comics that's out there that's come out. I mean, if you mention Damon Williams, Christian Toomey, obviously Pat McGann, Sean Flannery, Tanisha Rice. I mean, there's so many great Chicago comics, and then you don't even think about the ones that's left.
Yes.
Right? There's so many great comics that was in Chicago that's just gone off to, I don't even know, I mean, I guess you can call it greener pastures, but just to be in the mix with those Chicago comics, I just think it's, if you have any skill set at all in Chicago and you love comedy, it's hard not to get better in Chicago because the scene forces you to either grow or get out.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, totally agree.
Because there's so many, and just when you think, all right, here I come, and it's just a whole new group of young comics that come in.
Yep.
And then you're just like, you're the sheriff almost, and you just like got to protect your turf. You're like, I got to put my badge on and then my belt, because there's some new up and comers that's fighting for your stage time, right? Because if you don't write and you don't progress, why are they going to keep booking you?
No, that's true. That's true. And I couldn't agree more. Let's go back to this. So I'm year 38 of this for me. Going back to you started in the late 90s. Let's give us some history there. How you got into it? You were in college, right? Water?
Yeah, I would. Okay. Yeah, I went to Wisconsin Whitewater or played basketball there, and then afterwards, you know, it's funny. Me and my roommate in college, we would watch Def Comedy Jam.
Okay.
And we would watch Def Comedy Jam, and I used to watch, and I would just be like, man, I could do that. And then he was like, just stop saying you can do it and do it. And so I started going to the open mics, and it's so different back then. There was a open mic in Madison, Wisconsin, and one in Milwaukee, and I lived right in between. And it was Wednesday night, both. That was it.
That's it.
That's it. That's all the mics that I had. So I would go to Madison one week, Milwaukee the next. Madison 1 week, Milwaukee the next. And I didn't tell anyone. That I was doing stand-up at open mics until I got booked. When I got booked, when I got my first MC date, is when I told people, hey, guess what? I'm doing stand-up. How
much time were you doing at these open mics?
Oh, open mics, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Not a lot, 5 minutes. I was getting 5 minutes a week to just try to craft a set, and then I worked and I wrote, and then I recorded myself on one of those big things with the little cassette tape,
Yes.
you know, and then I would play it back on the way back and just be like, that's good, that's not good, that's good, that's not good. I was transcribe, which, you know, some people in this theater know what I mean. I transcribe, I would write out my set and everything and
Okay.
write it and say it out loud. I was so fascinated with the process of trying to create material. It was such a, people always, it's such an innocent time. It really was such
No, I would agree.
innocence. Like just, I never thought I would do it for a career. I just wanted to try it. Once I tried it, I wanted to get good at it. And then once I got good at it, I was like, well, I don't see any reason to do anything else in life besides this.
Going back to that, who were your, I always like to ask this, who were your like major influences? Who did you look at and try to emulate when you got on stage?
Oh man, I think I was influenced. I was so young and wide-eyed. Like anyone that was good influenced me at the time until I saw it was better. So there's no real rhyme or reason. Like I said, I started out watching Def Comedy Jam and I loved it. It was my favorite. But anybody that's seen my act would know that I'm not a Def Jam comedy act.
Correct.
But I loved it. I loved it and I wanted to do it. And then I found out, you know, just when you're going up, just trying to, I think the main thing is just trying to find your voice and find your lane and getting down your timing and delivery. And that makes writing easier. So when
Yes.
you get your time and delivery, because you know the rhythm of your act and you know how to write to that.
Could not agree more.
To that rhythm. So that was all that process. So everyone, I mean, Seinfeld, Chappelle, Chris Rock, like they're all of them. But then it was like when I started opening, and because I was never in comedy clubs until I started doing it. I never.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
Okay.
I didn't even know anything about it. Like the first time I did a set, I left because I was like, well, I don't have money to pay to stick around and watch the show, so I'm out. So I
Right.
left. I didn't even know, that's how little I knew. So every comic that I watched that I thought was good had an influence on me. And I was like, I'm gonna be more like that. I'm gonna be more like that. And then, you know, you figure it out and you feel like you gotta be you.
So the reason, one of the main, you know, we chose you for this first interview, one, because the Raue is they know you, okay? And you're one of their
And
favorites.
I know the Raue.
Yes, yes.
I know all of you people. I got your addresses, your social security numbers. I will be showing up for
I was
my
not aware of
weekly.
that. I was not aware of that.
Oh, you didn't know? You didn't get that
No,
info?
No,
All right,
that,
cool.
okay, that may change the questions.
It should. It should change the
But one of the reasons that it's
This
important
is
that we
John
get,
DeCoste, and this is a person of interest here at the Raue.
That's so true. But this is good because we're going to take advantage of this. You know, this year, it's been a crazy year. I mean, we'd have to probably go back to the 60s with all of this, the racism in America. And it's sort of like the stone has been overturned, and we've looked at this, and it's a lot of creepy crawlies coming out, okay?
Yeah.
So, you know, I want to get your perspective. Let's go back, first of all, let's go back farther than that. You know, you have always been a black man, you know?
Always.
So you're dealing with different things. Very quickly, go back to your mom and dad. What, you know, how did they prepare you, or what were some of the things they told you to prepare what you might have to face?
Well, I have such a big family. Like, I'm the youngest of 10.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I come from a giant family, youngest 10. My mother worked third shift at like a hood restaurant on 87th and Stony Island.
Okay.
It was called Queen of the Sea, but they served no seafood.
That's good.
And my father was a butcher. Remember the old A&Ps?
Yeah.
He was a butcher at the A&Ps, then he moved over to the food market, and so they were just grinders. Like that's, if there's anything that they instilled in us, it was just how to grind. But also they always taught us just how to talk to people.
Okay.
We were always outgoing sort of family. We always were comfortable with all walks of life. And I can't point to any real conversation about it. It was just instilled. Like we saw how they were in front of different groups of people, and we naturally emulated because you take so much from your parents that you don't even realize.
Well, correct.
And
Correct.
so, and it was that. Most of us went straight from high school into a trade. Me and my brother, that's closest in age, the two youngest, we were the ones that went off to college.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, we all prepared. Like we had a police officer, a fireman. We have a pastor. We have someone who's in food and beverage. It's just all walks of life that we went in. And so I think all of those things factored into who I am.
You know, I think of, from my perspective, I have opened for, Eddie Griffin, Ari Spears, where I know the audience is they're like 95% African American.
Yeah.
So you're starting out, you go in and you're beginning to do stand-up.
Yeah.
I am assuming that the majority of the people that you are playing in front of are white.
At the very beginning it was, and then when I started getting work, I was put more in black rooms, urban rooms.
Did that bother you?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Have a microphone, we'll travel. That's my rule. Like, you have a microphone? Are there people there? Let's go.
That's the name of his new sitcom, by the way.
Have a microphone, we'll travel, yeah.
You're playing, you start off, and obviously you hadn't found your voice.
Correct.
You're trying to evolve, okay? What are some, can you remember specific instances where you had to deal, where it like punched you in the face, like racism is, wow, I gotta do this.
That's great. Davenport Funny Bone, Iowa, I was hosting.
Okay.
I was in my first year of hosting, traveling, and the room is packed, the show is packed, and there's basically an all-white room, and someone screams out, speak up, N-word, from all the way in the back. And I knew something, I couldn't hear really what was said, because I would have stopped the show and addressed it, but I knew it was something weird because the crowd got really uneasy.
Okay.
And she was removed from the show, and the whole group was removed. I was like, I don't know what was said, but then people afterwards told me, it was like, everybody's coming up, I'm sorry. One woman came up crying.
Okay.
Like, this is not Davenport, Iowa. And I was like, it is Davenport, Iowa.
I hate to tell you this.
Right?
Yeah.
And, but come to find out, this woman, because they ended up making a newspaper, and come to find out she was in charge of the minority program at her job. So that was like one of the first times it was just like, all right. But I think, you don't like to see things like that, but I always say that's the beauty of live shows, is that you just don't know what you're gonna get, and you just have to be prepared. You just have to be prepared. And that's where a lot of times comics get tripped up. There's some amazing writers, some people that's so funny, but being live on stage and having to deal with a constant barrage of curveballs. Because if you think about it, and you know this, is stand-up, it is the most unnatural thing, because you are tricking the audience and they think you're having a conversation with them.
Correct.
And they're saying nothing. And also, the club is saying, we want you to get as drunk as possible, but behave.
Right.
So that's the balancing act. You're engaging in this crowd, and they're feeling comfortable with you a lot of times, and they feel like they're your friends. And what do you want to do with your friends? You want to talk to your friends, especially when you're drunk. And then you have to find that balancing act of performing in front of a live audience and getting them to be quiet and stay in touch, but also, please continue drinking.
Right.
Drink, drink, drink.
Right. No question about it.
Yeah.
Your material, when you started out, did you touch on, what percentage of your act was, hey, I'm black?
So when I first started out, I can't listen to my first album right now. I can't. My first album is called My First CD. That's the one I put out. And you could see like some of the makings of what I'm going to become, but then you can also see like I was just writing what I thought was funny, things that was funny, but I wasn't
Okay.
coming from a place of realness in that, like, right? Maybe I'll write about my experience with Taco Bell or like things like that, not where now the dynamic of being a father and traveling, having deeper takes. So all my takes were real surface. And a
Right.
lot of it was, black and white, being black versus white, and, eating at restaurants. It was all
Okay.
surface. It was
Okay.
all surface. It wasn't, because I hadn't found my voice.
Correct. Right.
So all of those things were, when I wrote about it, I'm not saying it wasn't funny, it was just all surface funny. And so I think surface funny is hard to, when you look back on it, doesn't hold as well. Because
Right.
it's surface, you just scrape that off. But when it's deeply funny, 20 years later, it can still be funny because it's deep rooted in something.
Right.
It's deeply
Right.
rooted in whatever it is your belief is, but it's there and it will stand the test of time because it's deeply rooted in a foundation of something.
I think about, my thoughts as a comedian, if I had a bad set, or it would stick with me, or it was a bad town, it would stick with me, whatever. But your situation, you have to deal with that. And then you're also dealing with, I mean, probably more racism back then, even in the late 90s, than it is today, although the last year. It's like a PTSD, isn't it? I mean, how do you deal with it that night? Are you done with it? Can you just fluff it off?
Can
or
sometimes some things will stay with me a little bit longer than they
Okay.
should, but I kind of like having a little bit of edge, a little bit of anger, a little bit of uncomfortableness. Like, it's just a reminder.
Right.
It's just a reminder of how life is. Like, I mean, you've been talking about all these things that's going on, and this might be controversial, but I don't like it because 4 people passed during the Capitol riots that just
Correct.
happened. The
Yeah.
4 people that passed.
Yeah.
But for me, this whole last 4 years, besides the 350,000 plus COVID deaths and the 4 deaths there, it's been great in some ways because a lot of my friends, especially my white friends, get to see the America that I always thought it was.
Okay. Okay.
Right? I always thought it was. This is the country that I've been saying, hey, this is a reality. And people are like, no, it's great if you work hard and do this and do that. That doesn't exist. And then it's like, do you still think that? When some people do, and that's fine. But a lot of people have been awakened. It's just like, the Matrix. Which pill are you going to take?
No, I could not agree more. My background, I grew up, I was the only, in Maywood, Illinois, which is predominantly African American.
Yeah.
I was the only white kid in my grade school.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my white boy in my graduating class. And Dwayne Kennedy, a good friend of ours, another very funny stand-up comic. But I told him, as Anthony Griffin as well, I told them, I totally agree with you. This year has brought that to the forefront. I used to, how dare I think I understand because I think I grew up that way.
Right.
If I'm not in your shoes, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. So,
It's the same thing. Well, it's the same thing when like you're trying to tell women how they should respond to all the sexual harassment. And granted, like, listen, I have been sexually harassed a bunch by women, but I don't lose sleep over it. I'm like, yeah, I was sexually
I need to
harassed by
clarify
women.
that I have not. So let's just clarify that.
Like
So
I
I know you're all
just,
thinking. So.
just like in bars and people are drunk and they say
Yes.
inappropriate things to
Yeah.
me. That doesn't, like, I hear that and I'm not like bothered or feel my life is threatened or something is bad about to happen to me. So I know it's out there, but I don't try to say, well, this is how you gotta do it. And it's so weird that people love to give suggestions
Yes.
about things that they never have to go through.
Yes.
It's so weird how strongly opinionated people are about things they never have to go through.
know.
It's crazy.
That's a fact.
Crazy. So, but that's just life.
Early on, I mean, take it to the next level. Any physical, where this got a little too far. This got a little too far.
No. I mean, right before the pandemic hit in January, a dude tried to come up and attack me, but that wasn't racial or anything. He was drunk and he was trying to be a part of the show. And I have a rule in my stand-up is you're not a part of the show. That's the rule. You're not a part of the show. That's it. And so he kept trying to be in, and I stopped the show and just focused on him. And then when I put the focus on him, he didn't like it. And then he tried to come up on stage. It was great. It was great.
Well, and it's interesting. I'm fascinated by that because, what are you, 6'5"?
Yeah. But people don't see that. People don't see that I'm 6'5", and like Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Luke versus Darth Vader, I had the high ground.
Yes.
I have the high ground.
Yes.
So you're coming
Yes.
to me.
Yeah. You're on stage as well, right.
Right. I'm on stage. I have a mic stand, a microphone, and you're coming up to me. So if there's any real threat. But then, did you ever see that video where a guy tried to attack another guy and he was throwing chairs? He pulled a knife
Yes.
up. Right.
Yes.
And I would never want to be a part of that.
Okay.
That is scary. I would not want it to be where I'm performing and someone is so upset with you that they're about to try to kill you.
People don't like to talk about race. I have to talk about race. My kids are mixed, but my son identifies as black, raging black. It's hilarious. You should see his Snapchat icon. It's like a really, really dark dude. I'm like, hey man, when did you become a refugee? He's like, I identify as black, Dad. Then I show a video of him dancing to remind him that he's mixed. You see how you're missing the beats right there? That's because your mom's white. Lighten up the photo.
So you're evolving. You started late 90s?
99 was
99.
full time, yep.
So you're evolving, and like you said, you're materialist, surface-based. At what point do you make the change and go, or do you ever say, you know what, I've got a little agenda here. I think I'm gonna educate these people on what it is to be black.
So my thing necessarily isn't, I don't like to be on a soapbox when it comes to that. I don't want to sit there and be preachy. I tried everything I say, even if there's a message in it, it's got to be funny. It's always has to be funny. And then there's clever ways I can bring things out that's happening in my world. Then that's what I try to do. But I would say after I wrote like my first album and came out my first album, I probably sat on it for like 4 years. Where I was like, that's it. I got an hour and I'm traveling with it. I'm having fun. I'm getting work. And then I found that it was just getting really boring.
Okay.
It was getting really boring. And then the jokes I was writing just wasn't sitting well with me. So I just knew that I had more to say on stage.
Oh, that's good.
So then that was the turning point, was just realizing, come on, man, you want to be really good at it. Not where people talk about me. That was never like, yo, you want people to talk. It was like you want to be able to feel good about what you are doing.
Correct.
Period. Which is always, I think, the key for being happy in life is being self-aware and being happy with who you are and what you're contributing. And then everything else takes care of its place, itself. So I was like, yo, what are you just gonna write about being drunk, or you write about eating at a restaurant, or you gonna talk about some real stuff, some things that people had to start, well, maybe would leave and be like, that was funny, but he also made me think about where I'm at. And I think the first time I started doing that was when I started talking about the whole concept of relationships and marriage and everything. Because I'd never been married. And I have 3 kids, but we never got married. And I thought, and everybody's always like, why aren't you married? And I was like, dude, I've seen marriage, I've seen what it does, and I know who I am and what I'm capable of doing. And so I wrote all of these things about marriage and just all the different angles of what I thought. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but it's what I thought. And so if you believe it, it's easier to sell it. And so that was like one of the first times when I started. And then it started being a parent, and then it started being more social and all of those things. But it started with my take on marriage, which let me know you can go really deep on things.
Right.
It's the surface,
Right.
but there's just levels of it you can go to. And I think that was open up my Pandora's box, so to say.
I learned that the family that I have is not the family that I want for a pandemic. Like, I love my family, but the family was successful because it was built on me leaving every week. But now that I'm here every day, I realize I have the wrong family. Like, I love my family for 4 days. The other 3 days is a struggle. You guys know that, right? I have 3 kids. I have 3 kids, I'll be honest with you. 17, 15, and 2. I know, right? Everybody's like, why'd you have another kid? I looked at my other 2 kids, was like, I can do better. Have you never looked at your kids like, this the best I can do? I need another kid. One more shot, God, I can do it. I have one kid that's 6'6", can't dribble with his left hand. Another kid playing soccer. Fail. You think I had you to watch soccer my entire life? Get your shit together. I tell him that too. I take him to his games like, you better give me 3 goals, else you're not gonna eat. You know how hard it is to get 3 goals? Not as hard as it is to watch this. I drank 4 Red Bulls so I wouldn't fall asleep standing up. Give me some goals. Soccer is the worst. Soccer is what you play when you fail to accept that you're not an athlete. Sorry, I forgot about the big soccer program in Crystal Lake. I forgot that you guys were cranking out Chicago Fire players left and right. Sorry. No offense.
We talked about the audience reacting to you and having to deal with this. People assume that comedians are very supportive, like we're in this club together. We both know that's not 100% true. But have you, it's one thing to deal with the audience that night. Have you had to deal with it with club owners and bookers and even worse, other comedians, without naming names, with that have been just outright racist to you?
More so bookers, where it's just clear and obvious a different set of rules.
Oh, yeah.
There's clear and obvious a different set of rules. I remember when I started co-headlining, I was working a club in Milwaukee, and there was a guy, white guy from New York, funny dude. Him and I got along great, and we were switching off. And this guy he worked blue. For those of you who don't know blue, like really aggressive language, bad words in every sentence, setups, punchlines, everything. It was just dirty. And the owner of the club is cracking up, just loving it. And I thought it was funny too. I didn't care what he did in front of me. And then before I go on, he's like, hey, keep it clean. We got a lot of older couples in there. I was like, what are we watching? I just thought, he's going to talk to this comic and tell him hey man, that was funny, but don't do that anymore.
Okay.
That's acceptable.
Right.
Right? Hey, that was great, but just so you know, I told Bozeman to keep it clean. You need to keep it clean. We don't have that.
Right.
No.
Oh, man.
This was this guy's act the whole week, and the whole time he told me to keep it clean. And I was just like, this is super weird. And then there's been times where, you know, and I don't think it's just a color thing where it's just been, sometimes club owners, they say things to you in a certain way, and it's just like, look, man, I'm here working at your club, thank you, but I'm still a grown man.
Correct.
Please do not talk to me that way. And there's times where I've been lowballed on money and stuff where I found out that other people of different nationalities got more.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
overall, I wouldn't say that my experience has been overwhelmingly bad as far as race goes. But I do know in the big scheme of things, like even when I did Last Comic Standing or whatever, shows like that, it's still a reality show. And so I know that when I'm trying to get on those shows, I'm really only fighting for just a couple of spots. You know, a national TV show, it's going to be majority white people. Right now, I think they're trying to change that. But at the time, it was like majority white people, and then 1 or 2 black people are fighting for the final 10 spots. You know, it's never 6 black people and 4 white people.
Right.
Never.
Right. Right.
So know that you were fighting for 1 or 2 spots, and that's just a given. I know Greg Anthony, who played for UNLV and analyst. He said something that, you know, his grandmother told him, was just like, the game is rigged against you. You just got to be better. That's it.
Okay.
You just got to be like, you know, once you know the rules of the game, when you decide to play it, you know the rules. I have to be good. That's it. I have to assume that if all things are equal, I'm the one that's getting passed by. And it's so weird now because I hear white people complain about that all the time, about affirmative action. Like, you know, it sucks to be a white guy right now. Okay.
I know.
Okay. Where's my violin?
It's
Let
quite
me-
a, it's
Let
hard.
me get my
It's
violin
hard.
out.
Yes.
Like I
Yeah.
hear them saying, like, you know, if I'm qualified, they're going to give it to someone else because they need to have. I go, imagine that being our entire life.
Yeah.
And you're still going to be fine. There's somebody else that's going to, like, that's been the entire fight of what was going through. Is like they had to create affirmative action because we were getting bypassed. And now you're complaining because you think, oh, everyone's up against white guy. No, it's just more of a leveling of the playing field. They're trying to, and I don't think it's even remotely close to level.
Oh, I would agree. I
I don't think
would
it's
agree.
remotely close to level. But also, I think one of the biggest problems that I have that's an underlying thing in society, and I see it happen with all sorts of comics, politics, athletes, regular people, is when black people do get something, we have to seem like the most appreciative. If we don't, if we're not like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, it's just like, I give you 2 examples. One, Terrell Owens, who, Hall of Famer.
Correct.
Right? He didn't get into the Hall of Fame the first time, and I get that they like the way he acted, but then they didn't put him in the second time, and I was just like, okay.
How?
He was second in receptions, second in touchdowns, second all time in yards.
Right.
And you're like, nah, I don't see it. And the reason why that was because he was so outspoken.
Correct.
And it was just like, no, you do not get to be famous and make money and be outspoken. We are going to punish you for that.
Right.
And also I had a conversation about the presidency, and then he was a Republican, and he was like, he didn't like Obama because he thought Obama was arrogant. And then I was like, but you didn't see that with Trump? And he was like, no, I didn't see it. I was just like, I'm not even talking policies. I am not even talking policies or party or anything. This is just the human being. And there were so many people that didn't like the president because he was arrogant. And it was just like, you're a black dude that's successful, you better, every chance you get. And that's why everyone loved Sammy Sosa and everyone hated Barry Bonds. Because Sammy Sosa was like, I'm just very, very good. He played that role, baseball, very, very good to me. I'm so happy. And they're like, we love Sammy. And Barry Bonds was a big F you, this and that. And they were like, yeah, right?
Yes.
Because everyone knew Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa was doing steroids, and they were letting it go.
Yes,
but then when Barry Bonds came, and then he ended up crushing, and then he was still showing disrespect, everybody was like, you cheater. And then they brought everyone down because Barry Bonds just wasn't playing the role. And it's just, you have to be some sort of graciousness to and I found that out even with stand-up. It's just like, I got in with a club, I did well, and then I thought he was gonna bring me back, and then the club was just like, well, you didn't say thank you for bringing it in. So, and I was just like, dude, what are we doing? We're all making money. Right. You're holding me for not writing up a follow-up email or a club that I was working and I was doing well at, and I was like, hey, maybe you should move up a headliner. And then guy was just like, he just didn't seem happy with what I was giving him. Yeah, I'm happy with what I'm giving him, but like, why wouldn't I want to headline? Why shouldn't I ask you to headline? And you could just say to me, Bozeman, I love you. I can't headline you yet, but your time will come. And we're good.
Done.
And we are good.
Yeah.
But I gotta find this tightrope situation of how to be assertive but yet fragile enough to show like, hey man, I appreciate everything. And I'm sure this happens with all walks of life. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like it's more prevalent in the community.
I would say the double standards are ridiculous.
Right.
Dave Chappelle stopped doing his show because he thought he was, feeding into that stereotypical, actually hurting the black community. In your circle, it's like not comics in general, but African American comics. Do you worry about that, or do you look at other comics and go, man?
I wish you wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
I do. I won't name names.
Okay. No, and I don't. No, we don't have to do that. But yeah,
I won't name names. But I think a lot of times, but that's true for all groups except for white guys. I know it sounds. I've seen. Hear me out on this. I've seen Asian comics play into the Asian stereotype, and I'm like, that's just not a good look long term for you. I've seen women play up, the whatever bad characteristic you might associate with a woman. They play into that. I'm just like, that's just like, if you want laughs, or you trying to, you just trying to get laughs, or you trying to be something. Is that who you are? And I've certainly seen it with black comics where they do jokes, and I'm just like, don't. Good Lord, don't do it. And to an extent, I would say this, now I see a lot of young white progressive comics apologizing almost on stage sometimes for being white. And I'm like, don't.
Oh, yeah.
Don't.
Good point.
Don't. Do not apologize ever for how you were born. You could apologize for all your personality and character traits, of course, but do not apologize ever for the way you look. Just don't. Just don't, because that's
good.
Right? But you can apologize for all sorts of things, and you can make fun of all sorts of things, but don't ever do that. But so now I just started to see that within young white comics of apologizing for being this white comic in this world that they like, no, just don't.
Just do your thing.
Do your thing without,
You talked about this year because it made people more conscious of what you have been dealing with, what, most black people have to deal with on a daily basis. You have George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, these horrible things that have happened. What has it become? Is it better today than it was 20 years ago when you started doing comedy?
In what way?
Racism. Do you see it improving? Or have we taken a step back?
In some ways we move forward. In some ways we've taken side steps. And in some ways we've gone back. I mean, it's never good when I have to explain to people why telling a group of white supremacists to stand down and stand by. Like anytime a president of the United States flirts with white nationalists, like that's ground zero for me. I don't care what your policies are. If you flirt with them, you'll never get my vote. But yet, he got 75 million votes. Yeah. So I like to be a solutionist to everything.
Okay.
I like to find solutions as to why I can be so put off by something, and 75 million people, even the black community, is still like, that's my guy. And I believe that the reason this will never get away, it's going to be really hard to eradicate racism out of this country. It's just normal. It's normalcy in this country. And so even though it's bad, it's just like, I can't tell you how many times I hear someone says, I have an uncle, this uncle's racist, or be careful, I just want you to know this person's racist and we're not like that, this person's racist. I get told about racist people. But I hardly ever hear, I don't talk to my uncle anymore. Why? Because he's racist. Everyone has he's racist, but I live with it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with what the president said. Yeah, what he said wasn't my favorite, but
right.
Socialism sucks.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so it's a lot of people aren't fans of racism, but it's not that important to them. The fight for equality, they go, yeah, look, I'm all for equality, but as long as it doesn't mess with what I have going on. And because racism has always just been normalcy, it's like viewed as bad, but it's not viewed as a game changer.
People, the audience that comes to see your shows,
Yeah.
if you could give them advice of how to help this situation, how to be positive about this, what can they do? What can the clubs do? What can the audience do to kind of make this more of a positive thing?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a think about this, but all the answers are out there. It's just a matter if you want. Like you can go, it's a Google search away from just saying the issues that we have as the black community.
Right.
It's a Google search away.
That's true.
You can go, anything that you say, you can find out these things. I don't want to have to be, I want to live. People always say, oh, why you have to talk about this, that. I hate that people can see me and pretty much know how I voted. I can't tell you how much that bothers me.
Oh, interesting.
I can't tell you how much that bothers me on some level, that people see me and know how I voted. I want that to not be a problem.
Right.
I want that to not be a thing. I want to be able to go, hey, I'm just voting for this, and this.
Right.
But until I believe that it's ground zero, and trust me, I I rank on the Democratic Party. In my act,
Yes, I've seen that, yes.
I shred them, and on my podcast, I shred them. So there's no love lost there, but this is just different. But I don't like that. But so when people are like, what can you do? What can I do? Read up on some stuff if you care about it, and then just figure out like, oh, I didn't know this. I should be conscientious of it. I shouldn't have to pass out a brochure like, hey, I'm coming to your town to perform, and maybe you might want to look at some of these things and see what you can do. Like either do or don't. Only thing I say is, I tell my friends this all the time. I go, you aren't lying to me. You are lying to yourself.
Oh,
because I already know it. I already know what you think when you say, he's about even with Trump and stuff. Like when you say these things to me, like you might believe that, but what you're telling me, I am telling you that you are lying to yourself when it comes to a lot of things about it. And it's just the way it is. That's just a political, when this was blown up a long time ago when we didn't hold, I always say, if you don't hold your own party accountable, it's the same thing within your house. If you don't hold the people in your house accountable, then they're going to go out and do things, and then you're going to make excuses for them instead of when you should have held them accountable in your house. It's the same thing with politics. You got to hold your own party accountable.
Right.
If you don't hold your party accountable, then this is where we're at. And so when I'm coming to perform, like I'm coming to push the envelope, whatever the envelope is.
Yes.
I am going
Yes.
to, I don't want a show that's all applause. I like to go out. We were just talking about this before. I like to go out and get the crowd because the subjects I talk about and the takes that I have are dark. A lot of them are dark. If you just read my jokes on paper, you might be like, oh,
I would agree.
this guy, this doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
But then you see me perform it, and it's with a light mood, but I'm still saying dark things. I like to push the envelope. I don't like to play it safe. I like to try to figure out what the audience line is, and then I like to see if they'll let me cross it.
Right.
I do.
Right. No,
I get a big kick out of that. I get a big kick out of making an audience laugh when they don't want to laugh and things that they're like, geez, and they left. They was like, were we really laughing at that? And yeah, you are.
Well, and I've been a part of that audience with you,
Yeah.
and I applaud you on that. There's no fear. You do not have any fear.
Yeah.
You go up and you say what you want to say. I have never acquired that gene. I don't have that. So to watch you do that always blows me away, and I just find that fascinating. That you can go up. And I know that line. I know what the line is. You can, as a comic, I can see you going beyond it, and it blows. It's like it worked.
Yeah,
it
you
worked.
do some jokes and you see where they're at. You can just tell because you've done your act and you know what's what and what you're saying, and then you see where the audience gauge is, and then you go, okay, well, let's turn this up.
So
let's turn it up.
Let me ask you this: the stage gives you that opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's your mic. You've got the volume. You've got the whole thing. Do you find it difficult then, off stage in your personal life when you're in your hometown? Is it like a whole different world? Does that create a problem for you? Because
Nope.
Hey, I just said all I wanted to say last night, and now I'm at the grocery store and I can't say what I want to say.
It's made it better. Right? When you find, like I always say, like that person that's this is why I always fight for like health insurance and quality education. That person, I used to watch my father. He would wake up and then he would sit at the edge of the bed for like 15 minutes, just sitting there, just like, I'm telling you, he was just like this for like 15 minutes every morning because he was mentally preparing to go through a work day and deal with that. And he was mentally preparing. And like the people that have to get up and do something that they don't necessarily love or want to do, to have to do it daily to make ends meet and to get the benefit package. Like, it might be a horrible job, but they can't leave that horrible job because
Right.
this horrible job gives them these benefits. But what they love to do gives them none of the benefits.
Right.
And so therefore
Right.
they have to do that. I and you are fortunate enough that we are able to make a living on something that we want
Correct.
to do. And very few people, or not enough people,
Not enough.
have that. And so when I'm off stage, like, I don't think, oh, I gotta navigate through. Like, if something rubbed me the wrong way, I'm calling it.
Right.
I'm calling it. Like, if I lose friends or whatever, so be it. Like, battle lines have been drawn.
Right.
And one thing that I will no longer do is compromise my happiness. That
Okay.
is, I leave it. I even with clubs. Hey, I would like to work your club. Hey, I would like to work your club. You don't get back to me,
Yeah,
I'm
move
leaving
on.
it. Because
Right.
you're just sending out, you're almost sending out your own rejection letter.
Right. Right.
And why would I want,
Yeah.
why would I want that? How is that good for my happiness?
To kind of wrap this up, I want to talk about the future, and I want to talk about, you have 3 kids, correct? So a little confession on my end, I feel, I don't know if I have the right to say this, but I feel that things are getting better because of this, and I will tell you why. Because my wife and I talked about this, I am just as guilty of my parents when I tell a story and I go, well, this black guy, this Jewish guy, somehow I have to describe that, use that as an adjective. My son will tell a story, and I have no idea
I know. Isn't
what
that
race
fascinating?
that person is, or whatever. And sometimes I'm shocked to go, oh, that's who you're talking about?
I'm fascinated by people that can do that.
Your kids, what's the future? What's the hope here? Give me some positive. Give me a positive story that's happened recently for you because of race, where it came out, and then where are we
No.
going?
No.
Okay.
See, I think that's kind of the where we're at, where it's just like white people right now are just like, give me something. Give me something that I can hold on to.
I thoroughly apologize.
No, it's just like, tell me something positive.
It's true, yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Like, just be your best you. That's the positive in it, and that that you were blessed because you have find out. Like, I've learned that these last 4 years have taught me is that everyone has a logic, and a lot of it is not sound logic. You are blessed with sound logic and the ability to know that you can evolve, and that's what it takes. There's no story of
Okay.
there's hope. Like, I mean, there is, of course there is,
Of
but
course.
it's just like, I'm not going to sit here and tell people like, yeah, and be like,
No, and that's okay. And I wouldn't expect you to, and that's good because I wanted to. Is it an honest answer? Is it at least a little better for your kids than it was for you?
Oh God,
Okay.
It's great for my kids.
Okay.
My kids are mixed though, but it's great, and we live in a good suburb, and I want them to. I almost, I did jokes about it, and it's true. Like, in some ways, they got it too easy. They don't have.
Oh, interesting.
Kids can be self-motivated, but sometimes I just feel like with the same thing with stand-up, it's the eating it on stage. It's the rejections that's driving you. It's not the success that you have. The success is, for me at least, success is not my driving force. It's the rejection.
Right.
It is when people say no to me. That's what
Yeah.
what motivates me, not the yeses, the nos. And it's the same thing with like, what struggle are you going through to make you appreciate what you have?
Okay.
So if everything is given to you, given to you, then you don't really appreciate what it is that you have, or it makes it harder to appreciate.
No question.
I shouldn't say. I don't want to speak in such a general term and put that on everyone, but generally speaking, struggle makes it real.
So did you enjoy coming here today? Was this good?
Hey man, talking shop with you is always.
I would agree. This
It's
is
one of my favorite things. I can do that anyway.
But I love when I get to learn stuff that I didn't know. I've known you for a long time, and there were things that I didn't know that I just found out today. So I cannot thank you enough for coming out here today.
I appreciate it.
You said you're going up to Minneapolis this week.
I'll be in Minneapolis. I'm slowly starting to integrate back into the real, but I don't think I'm going. That's a couple of things. I don't think I'm going back to where I was traveling every week. I don't think that's going to happen, especially not in 2020. I'm going to gradually get back into that. And you know what? I also think that I don't think that I'm going to get rid of masks ever.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm going to be a mask dude. I just see the benefit. You know what's crazy is like since March, I was like every show I like to meet and greet and thank people. And then every month or two I just come down with like a 2-day nasty cold.
Oh, interesting.
And since March, no one in my family has been sick.
Oh, I think that's the same for us.
No one in my family has been sick. I like that.
That's a good thing.
I decided that's
you can take a positive.
There's your positive.
No, there we go. There's the hope.
Sick.
That's the hope we were looking for.
I haven't been sick since March, and I like it. But I'm going back in there. I got Minneapolis. I'm in Florida in the end of February. I'm in Vegas the end of March. Frankfort, Illinois, at our friend Dean's place, CD and Me. Right. I have a new website coming out real soon. I'm not sure when this is be dropped, but kevinbozeman.com for
good. And we will
dates.
make sure you know that, and I have a lot to do with this with the booking, but the Raue likes you so much.
Yeah,
we want to get you back out here ASAP. Thank you so much for doing this in our first. What is it? Our Voices, Our Town. This is our first one. So thank you for doing the first one. Thank you for coming out today.
Oh, no problem, buddy.
So this is good. All right.
Thank
Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it.